What are Putin and Biden thinking while people are dying in Ukraine? Money, power, interest. It's about something you must know about Russia and Ukraine war. On February 24, 2022, Russia invaded in Ukraine. Putin claimed 4 reasons to justify his decision: violation of promise with NATO, self-defense, ethnic integrity, and self-determination. They are quite familiar reasons. When Bush initiated the war with Iraq, he claimed Iraq's violation of UN decision, self-defense, and democratic humanitarian intervention. When Bush claimed them, Putin criticized him. He called up a peaceful resolution in Iraq crisis. Maybe we should tell him the same thing again. The very reason of wars is to eliminate potential threat. It is called anticipatory self-defense. Bush recognized Saddam Hussein's government as a threat to US control on oil in Central Asia, and Putin recognized Ukraine's attempt to join NATO as a threat to Russia itself. The biggest difference between them is international reaction. When Bush initiated the war on Iraq, most states did not make any sanction on US and an ally UK. But now we can see all the sanctions to Russia leading by Biden. Nevertheless, Putin is facing numerous sanctions. The war is still ongoing. What are we missing? We miscalculated the value of Ukraine to Russia. From the Napoleonic War, Crimean Peninsula is the most important region for Russia. It is a well-known fact that Russia has dreamed to have an unfrozen harbor. Even Lenin said, losing Ukraine means losing our head. It was certain that after the independence of Crimea, Russia would make their way to Ukraine. Recalling the Russo-Georgian War, Putin learned that US and NATO can do nothing for non-NATO member states. Ukraine is much more important than South Ossetia. Especially linking Donetsk to Crimea means Putin gets the supply line to his Black Sea fleet. NATO's marching to east make Russia feel a huge threat. Just imagine how Americans had reacted to the Cuabn missile crisis. It is the gun under Putin's nose. This makes Putin take all measures to take Ukraine in his hand. We miscalculated the power of Ukraine and Russia. Russia defeated Georgia less than 2 weeks. However, Ukraine is almost 9 times larger than Georgia and has well-trained army. Also, Ukraine makes the war as media and propaganda war. Elon Musk, Google, Apple, Netflix, and even Instagram support Ukraine. With all of them, Ukraine's soldiers are well motivated. On the other hand, Russia's army was not enough to take Ukraine as rapidly as they did in Georgia. NATO was not ready either. Most of EU states spend less than 2% of their GDP for military budget. Donald Trump demanded to increase it up to 2%. And now Germany declared to increase their military budget up to 2% of GDP, and other EU members are following it. We miscalculated Putin and Russia. Putin doesn't fear of the sanctions. Alexei Navalny insisted Putin invaded on Crimea to divert people's attention. Putin may want US and NATO to engage into the war. It would give him justification by making the war against Western party. It would boost Russians' morale. War has always made him get more support. He is also manipulating the media and social network in Russia. Although there are many anti-war demonstrations, still there is less chance of coup for this. Putin claims he needs to expel Nazis from Ukraine. There is reason why Russians believe his word. On 1929, OUN committed ethnic cleansing collaborating with Nazis. They organized UPA and fought against German and Soviet Union. During Cold War, US cleaned their past to practice anti-communist operation. Russians still remember it. Russians think Ukraine is oppressing Russian ethnics in the region. For this, the war let Putin centralize all the power. We miscalculated Biden. Biden may want the war to be longer. The war will increase EU's security dependence on US. Also, it will burden Russia each day. Economic sanctions are giving a good chance of export for US. Engaging into the war could be a bad decision. In domestic, people want not to get into another one after Afghanistan war. In external, allies and China may have different views. Allies would not want to extend the war and make any chance of nuclear war. On the other hand, China would want US to look away from South China Sea and Taiwan matter. This would make Biden hesitate. Biden must do balancing and weighing Ukraine and Pacific. We miscalculated existing situation. Ukraine was not ready to join NATO. No preparation of rule and law, anti-corruption, economic reform, no uniform domestic opinion. Almost half of Ukraine was against Euromaidan. Also, NATO hesitated to accept a joint of Ukraine. NATO did not want to simulate Russia for Ukraine. While there was no significant reason to accept Ukraine to NATO, US and NATO kept simulating Russia. We cannot blame Budapest Memorandum of Understanding, because Ukraine could not afford the weapon for cost and lack of technology. What we should not miss. This war initiated arms race in Europe, including EU and NATO states. It proves sanctions cannot deter any war. Economic sanctions could not stop Putin. Putin cares domestic political power more than isolating Russia. The dictator has never relinquished his power because of sanctions. The war caused US to choose between Ukraine and Pacific. In Afghanistan and Iraq war, US had to accept two-sided war was impossible. These mid-Asia wars make US react to Russia with uncertainty. The war makes CIS states fear Russia more. How to end the war? Scholars expect 5 scenarios. Stuck into the war, separation of Ukraine, Ukraine's critical win, peace treaty, unexpected scenario. The most possible expectation is the first one. Putin would not accept any resolution that makes him seem loser. Then, is there any possibility to become a new world war? Tricky question. It depends on NATO and US. Biden mentioned Putin is 21st century Hitler. Then, we should ask who is Chamberlain. US, Putin, Xi Jinping, they all claim great again. Biden calls for Putin war crime trial, then what about Bush? International relations will always ask you not about who is guilty but who has power. We are facing neo-nationalism that led us to the Great Wars. Racism, discrimination, isolation, distortion. We should not forget what brought us into the war. E.H. Carr pointed Chamberlain should have chosen knife rather than butter. International politics is not about justice, it is all about conversation with knife and butter. Next time, let's think about what is going on Pacific.